Welcome to Python Programming. Myself, Raghuprasad Konandur, your instructor for this course. We will be starting with Introduction to Python. A brief introduction about me. I have done my BE and MS. I have overall 27 years of experience. I was a lecturer in an engineering college for about 7 years. I'm into IT from last 20 years. I work with various companies like Cisco, CSC, ICC group of companies, First Apex. Currently, I'm into corporate training and consultancy. I have worked with many corporates and public sectors. As far as the technology is concerned, I have been working with multiple technologies, namely Java, C, Python, web technologies, JavaScript technologies, mean or merge talk, Internet of Things, test automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. These are the corporate customers where I have provided the training. ITC Infotech, Philips, L&T, NextGen, Incornus, Aspire System, and many of the engineering colleges in Karnataka and outside of Karnataka have provided training. To name a few, Reva University, Nagarjuna Engineering College, Dayanand Sagar University, Acharya Institute of Technology, NIE Mysore, NIE, NIT Imphal, and Sindhi College, Malnad Engineering College, SP College of Management. So let us discuss about the course outline. So in this course, what is that you will be learning? So I will be starting with introduction to Python. We'll discuss about what is Python and what are the applications of Python. Why should you learn Python? Then we'll start with installation of Python. Here we will be using a specific Python distribution called as Anaconda. And then we will be starting with the building blocks of any programming language, namely the data types, operators, loops, conditional statements, functions. Then we will move to object-oriented programming. We'll discuss about inheritance, polymorphism, file operations, how to create a file, how to read a file, how to update a file or a module, delete a file. And then the exception handling. And we'll be discussing about the database interaction. How do we interact with the database, Python with database? And then graphical user interface programming, where we wanted to develop any Windows kind of a programming. So how are we going to go about developing the Windows kind of a programming? So these are the course outline. And what are the course objectives? Once you enroll to this particular programming language, so you will be introduced to Python as a generic programming language, and then the introduce you to the object oriented programming and its usages, and it's highly practical oriented code as you learn. So you keep on coding as you start watching the videos, and it would help you to build the ability to solve the problem by developing the necessary algorithms. And aim is to bridge the gap between the actual skills required for the industry and the current skill possessed by the trainees. And expected outcome is, so it would be good understanding, will have good understanding of theoretical as well as practical of Python programming. It would be more, as I said, it's hands-on and minds-on, and you can build a we will give us ideas to build a project. Also, we will be adding a one particular project, so you can refer to that and you can develop your own projects, as well as it will help you to build a critical thinking ability, and this would help you to prepare for hackathon or campus recruitment, and you will be well versed with the software development life cycle. So how are you going to develop the software and what are the different phases. So that also we'll be discussing. That is the expected outcome of this course. Now coming to the Python as a programming language, you come across different programming languages, right? So you would have started with C programming, then Java, then those who are into web development, you would have learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or PHP. So Python is one of the programming language which is very easy to program compared to other programming language. And it's an object-oriented programming language. So the programming languages like Java, Python, C++ are all object-oriented programming languages where the real world scenario is mapped to an object and the interaction between the objects. And this is similar to Perl, and it has the powerful typing and the object-oriented features. And when we write a program in Python, the extension is .py, and there are different extensions we can go with like .pyc and .pyo, so which is optimized to run in an environment. And Python is really good for the text processing, and it has built-in advanced data types like list and dictionaries, which would help us to develop complex programs. And it could be used to develop the web application by learning some other libraries in addition to Python. There are different implementations of Python. So when we download the Python, usually the Python which is downloaded is called as the C Python, which is the default implementation of the Python using the C programming language. So it is written in C, that's why this is called as the C Python. There are different implementations of Python. PyPy is one of the such implementation which is faster compared to C Python. And there are different implementation like IronPython, which is the Python running on .NET, and also Jython, which is the Python running on JVM. And there are other versions of Python called MicroPython, where the Python is running on the microcontroller. So we can use it for use it in Internet of Things, MicroPython. And as Internet of Things, the devices are very small, so the size of the Python is very less here when you compare to the regular Python installations. And we will be using a specific Python distribution called as the Anaconda Python. There are different even distributions of the Python available. So the one which we would be using is the Anaconda Python. Broadly, the different programming languages are classified into three types. The one which are compiled, the other programming languages which are interpreted, and few of the programming languages are hybrid, which is compiled as well as interpreted. Programming languages like C, C++, Objective-C, where this, if once you write the source code, it is compiled using a compiler. The compiler reads the source code from line 1 to line n, and it's converted into a executable. So here the compiler reads everything in the programming in that particular program before it throws an error. Whereas interpreted programming languages like PHP and JavaScript, where the interpreter reads line by line. It is going to read the program line by line and it is going to execute. It reads one line, executes. Reads the another line, executes. That is called as the interpreted. And there are set of programming languages like Java, C Sharp, VB.NET, and Python, which are hybrid because compiled programs are typically faster. Hybrid programs are easy to debug because you are reading a line by line program and executing it. If at all any problem is there in a specific line, it throws the error. Unless compiled is like it is going to read the entire program and then it is going to throw the error. So to make the best use of it, these programming languages uses the hybrid approach. So both of them has its own pros and cons. The compiled programs are not cross-platform in the sense. So the same program you cannot use it in different operating system. Maybe there are bit modification you have to do. Same executable you cannot use it in the different platforms. But it is faster. Source code is private, so when you start executing, only executable will be given and you start executing. So you cannot see what is there in that particular executable. The source code is private and it is ready to run. Whereas interpreted programming languages are often slower because you have to read line by line and then execute. But it has the advantage source code is public so that you can go through the source code of that particular program, and it is cross platform, so you can use it in different platforms, and it is simpler to test, easy to debug. So these are the advantages of the interpreted programming languages. So now let us understand the features of Python. One is Python is freely downloadable. You can download it free and it is open source. That means source code is available. And it is portable. As I said, it is cross platform. Same program, you can run it on different operating system, different architecture. And this is interpreted, object oriented, easy to read and write. So this program, like if you see any other programming language, if it takes 10 lines of code, probably you will be using maybe 4 or 5 lines of code when you use the Python. Python has large libraries. That is what is the advantage of using the Python, because it is open source. It is driven by the community. So a lot of people start contributing by writing their own libraries, and those libraries are available and you can make use of them. You need not to start from the scratch. It's already there. So you can just make use of it. And in case it is required, and most of the libraries you can modify and you can use it. So, and also it is used in the graphical interface, user interface programming, like Windows kind of programming we can do, which can run as a standalone application on your system. So that is the reason many companies and their products are using Python. To name a few: YouTube, Quora, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, Flipkart, Slack, Uber, Cloudera, Zenefits. So they use Python in one or other way in their products. And if you look at the top 10 programming languages of 2021 in the Stack Overflow, as per the Stack Overflow, the Python is leading. It's almost like 30% of the people like using the programming language Python, followed by other programming languages like JavaScript, Go, and then Java and C++. So you can see the importance of Python, and it's being extensively used nowadays. And these are the companies that are using Python, as I mentioned already. Few other than that, you can see edX, NASA, Dropbox, Uber, Instagram, IBM. Okay, they're all the Reddit. They are already using Python, and these are the really famous companies which are using the Python. And YouTube is originally written in Python and MySQL. Yahoo, what time when it was really famous, they were using Yahoo Maps. They're using Python for Yahoo Maps. Google search engine component like Spider is written in Python. And Dropbox, which is a server, Dropbox server, so which is running in the cloud, that's also being written in Python. There are other corporates like Shopzilla, which is a shopping comparison website that uses, and some utility managers like Yum. that also uses Python. And Ultrasig server, which is a commercial search engine, it also uses Python. And where and all we can use Python, or what are the different applications of Python? Python can be used as a traditional backend programming language, like the way we use Java. In the same way, you can use Python. Python can be used for database programming, graphical user interfaces. There are libraries like tkinter, GTK, Windows. Using that, we can develop a Windows kind of an application. And it is used extensively for system utilities. Most of the times, it's used by DevOps people who wanted to do some kind of a monitoring, server management, taking the backup, running, starting, stopping a server, and then running some of the code. So that is where the system is being used. It's extensively used in artificial intelligence, machine learning, image processing, and other than data sciences. Python is also used in embedded programming. That's like microcontrollers. So in microcontrollers, traditionally we were using C, C++. Nowadays, you can use Python in microcontrollers also. So smart city kind of a projects also we can use Python. And it is extensively used in the data analytics. So where in which we have huge data and then we want to analyze the data, predict the future, then data Python is very good for that. So it's extensively used in weather forecasting, scientific analysis, targeted advertisements, and then the risk management, like the financial managements, asset management, fraud, detecting the fraud. So those areas Python can be used. Why Python is becoming very famous now? Why not earlier? Because the Python is dependent on the data. So nowadays you have huge data. Because of the explosion in the internet, we have a lot of data. And someone has to analyze the data. So in order to analyze the data, we should have the good computing power. Now, with the improvement in the hardware, we have really good computing power. So we have huge data, we have computing power. With that, lot of problems, real life problems is solved by using the Python. So that's what we say. New use cases of Python are the major growth drivers for increasing the demand in the Python. Availability of data, availability of very good computing power, and then the advanced algorithms and the libraries. So many libraries are developed to target a specific area, maybe for forecasting, maybe for scientific analysis, is machine learning. So there are many libraries being written and it is open source. So those libraries are available free. Libraries like Pandas, SciPy, PyDope, they're all being extensively used in scientific analysis or data analysis. And these are the few other companies which are using Python for forecasting, like Forecast Watch, real-time online advertisement, AppNexus. Altis is using for multi-manager, multi-asset risk management, and scientific laboratories like Los Alamos, which is the top national laboratory in the US. So they are also using it for simulation, visualization of the scientific data. And if you look at the history, this is the guy, Guido van Rossum, who started Python. Conceptualized Python in 1980, and the Python started almost the same time as that of uh, Java. Java started in 1995. Python also started in 1994, the version 1.0 of the Python. And this programming language is called as Python. It is nothing because it is a big snake or something like that. Because this Rossum was very much a big fan of a um, reality show called Monty Python's Flying Circus. Because of that, he kept this name as Python. and he continues to be the heading the core development team and giving the direction to the other members. As you see, the Python is now you have 3.0 version, and we have versions like if you look at the version history, so 2.7 was one of the famous version of the Python. That's in 2010. After that, all 3.0 came in, and the recent versions, which is released recently as in October, um, actually in 2020, is 3.9. The version 3.9 is there. So it keep on improving, keep on enhancing the features. But all three, like whatever the program is written in 3.0 can be used in 3.9 or vice versa. And finally, what are the pros and the cons of the Python? The pros, we already have seen the advantages of Python. It is object oriented. You can use it in Internet of Things, embedded programming, data science, and it's portable, free, open source. It's extensible. You can use other programming language along with Python. But there are few limitations. Also, it is not very good in mobile computing. The database layers are not as much improved as other programming languages. Speed is also one of the concern because it's interpreted. So that's why they are having the hybrid approach to make it faster and better compilers, better interpreters, or better hybrid mode. But you can run it on any operating system. That is the key advantage. And the less coding that we are writing very less code compared to other programming language. It's affordable, it's available freely, you can use it, you can explore it and experiment. And because of these key features, if you learn all these things, you can be flying like this guy. So it supports different kind of approaches of programming, object-oriented programming, functional programming. It has lambda programming inside it, lambda functions. And that's why you start writing the program, you really love the program, and you show a lot of attachment with Python. Now the question is, why should you learn program Python? One is from last 5 to 6 years, Python is the most sought after programming language for the reason I have mentioned, explosion of the data, and the companies wants to analyze the data, understand the behavior of their customer. So data is available in different formats, different, it's not only like structured data. Now we are having unstructured data in the form of blogs, in the form of social media. So the companies wants to analyze to give better services to their customers. And it is very easy to learn compared to other programming languages. Traditionally, we used to start with C programming language. You can start with Python also, it's very easy. And this is the basic course. First, you have to learn the Python, and then after learning Python, you can learn so many other things. There are libraries on top of the Python, and this is the one programming language it can be used extensively in different areas of software development. So once you learn Python, you can become a Python backend developer. Also, Python plus front-end applications, front-end technologies if you use, and also like additional libraries of Python like Flask and Django. So you can become a backend developer, and then you can become a full stack developer where you can develop the all the modules of the programming in the sense front end, the middleware as well as the backend. And you can get into artificial intelligence, essentially machine learning, data science part of it. So if you are keen on testing, you can be a test automation guy who can get into the test automation. You can also get into Internet of Things by learning Python and the other libraries on top of it. And you can get into develop DevOps. So that is also one of the emerging areas so where you can get into. So these are the plenty of opportunities for you. So that's why learning Python is very important. I congratulate you for enrolling for this particular course. Hope your journey will be smooth, and I will be there to guide you, to help you to understand and master Python. Thank you very much. Thanks for registering for this course. And with that, I complete the introduction to Python. See you in the next topics.